Before the world had stirred from its slumber, Sherry, a dedicated hospice aide, was already pulling up to Stillwater's group home for seniors. Sherry wasn't just an aide, she was the very heart of the organization. Her love and attention permeated every small action she did. Her attention to detail, unmatched. She was a true equal to each member of her hospice team. The doctor, nurse, social worker, and chaplain. She even knew the location of every mole on her patient's body. That's how much she cared. She was never in a rush. Before her visit at the group home, she took a moment to center herself, say a prayer for God's strength, and took a deep, calming breath. She made sure not to park in the driveway in order to leave space for visiting families. She pulled out her phone and reviewed the plan of care. She saw that her hospice patient, Hank, had a sudden decline and needed more help with showers. She took note of one detail, that Hank had been watching a lot of Seinfeld lately. Phone set to vibrate, she anchored herself with an assertive declaration in the rearview mirror. I am a teacher. The night prior, she didn't get the best sleep, but she was determined to not bring that into the group home with her. She focused her energy up to provide a compassionate performance, to give a feeling of love, a feeling of being safe to her patients. She made a conscious choice. This wasn't just another Monday. It was the best day of her life. She assessed what supplies she needed from her trunk, grabbed her bag, and approached the house. On the outside, Stillwater's looked like just a regular house in the middle of a neighborhood, but inside, it was a bustling haven for 10 seniors and their caregivers. She rang the doorbell, took a few steps back to be seen clearly, and Joy, the group home manager, opened the door. With a smile on her face, Sherry exchanged pleasantries with Joy. Sherry signed into the facility binder while she asked Joy if she had any concerns regarding Hank. Joy replied that Mark, the caregiver, hurt his back trying to lift Hank. Don't worry, I'll take some time to show him some techniques. After his shower, do you want Hank in the dining room or his room? Joy replied that she'll serve Hank breakfast in his room. Gently knocking on Hank's door, Sherry said, "Hey Hank, it's me, Sherry." She projected warmth, carefully reading the room, and saw that Hank was watching TV. Her greeting lifted the atmosphere of the room and raised Hank's spirits. While putting her bag down on her bag mat, she casually brought up the one detail she noted. "I heard you've been watching a lot of Seinfeld. I love that show." They shared a laugh, talking about the crazy antics of Kramer. Sherry sanitized her hands, got at eye level with Hank, and said, "So what's been going on lately? What's your biggest concern?" She gave a feeling to Hank that he was safe and that he could be vulnerable with her. Hank began to open up that he was really frustrated that he could no longer get around like he used to. She was careful to not just listen to his words, but also to watch his body language to see if he had any unspoken needs. She carefully validated his concerns, using his exact language to not diminish his feelings. She proceeded to manage his expectations and assured him of her support. Other disciplines like nurses and social workers normally pull out their computer to help in their visit, but not hospice aides. They are the most hands-on of any discipline. At this point, Sherry put on gloves and prepared for the intimate task of showering Hank. In the bathroom, she was meticulous, adjusting the water to a comforting warmth, laying down a non-slip mat, and setting aside a fresh brief and a clean towel like she had done 1,000 times before. Returning to Hank, she demonstrated the kind of professional grace that comes from experience. She grabbed his wheelchair, put the handbrakes on, and carefully sat Hank up. She maintained proper posture to protect her back while helping him stand and pivot to sit in his wheelchair. She removed his clothing and put him in his favorite bathrobe. Her love and attention were evident as she set out his clothes on the bed. She wheeled him through the hall and said, "Keep your arms in, Hank. I don't want you to bang your elbow on the door." She proceeded to help him undress and remove his brief. She again helped him stand and pivot into the shower chair. After running her hand through the water to check the temperature, she said, "It's just how you like it, Hank." It wasn't much, but she gave him a gift. She let him relax in the shower and enjoy the water for a few minutes while she got things ready. At each step of the shower, she told Hank what she was about to do before she did it. Some things he could still do, so she encouraged him to help with what he could. First, she rinsed his whole body, and then she focused on shampooing his hair. After rinsing the shampoo, she was careful to make sure none of the soap got into his eyes. She proceeded to scrub his body, working from the top downward. She helped him shave his face, stroking downward to be careful not to cut him. Once she was finished, she rinsed him again and dried him thoroughly. She proceeded to apply lotion to the dry spots on his body. She helped him stand up, put on a fresh brief and robe, and got him back in the wheelchair. While Hank was brushing his teeth, Sherry tidied up the bathroom, leaving it looking better than when she found it. Back in his room, Sherry combed Hank's hair with the same precision he once applied to his professional appearance when he was in the military. Knowing that nails are easier to trim when they're wet, she went to trim them. However, they were already trimmed by his caregiver, a testament to their love for Hank. Since Hank was diabetic, she made sure not to touch his toenails, saving that for the podiatrist. She proceeded to help Hank get dressed in his clean clothes she had laid out. While Hank watched some more TV, she carefully remade the bed and replaced his bed underpad. She tied up all the trash she had collected and set it aside to take out to the trash bin. She told Hank to sit tight because she wanted to show Mark how to do a proper lift. Mark came into the room and Sherry demonstrated the transfer of Hank from his wheelchair to his bed. She said, "Normally I would demonstrate and have you teach it back to me, but with your back still recovering, it's better to rest for now." Mark was grateful and left the room. Sherry took a moment to herself and thought about Hank's decline and realized that he might soon need bed baths when he gets worse. She proceeded to make sure that all his DME was in good working order, that he had enough supplies, and she even asked Hank if he had any concerns with his meds that he wanted her to relay to his nurse. She then told Hank that she was going to let the team know how he was doing. She pulled out her phone and notified the chaplain that Hank seemed really lonely and would probably appreciate a visit. She then documented her visit, carefully checking off each step that she completed for Hank. She had dutifully done all her tasks. At the bottom of the form, she wrote how Hank is continuing to decline. If anything needed to be adjusted in the hospice aid care plan, she would let the nurse know. She tipped the team one detail so that they too could build rapport with Hank. Once she was finished with her phone, she turned to Hank and said, "The staff here are really doing a great job. You are in good hands. I counted all of your supplies, and you have everything you need. Is there anything else I can help with? I have time." Hank went on to talk some more about his feelings. Again, Sherry sat down, listened, validated and matched, and managed his expectations. She cleaned her instruments, packed her things, and closed out her chart on her phone. As she was leaving, she pointed at the number and view sheet and said, "Don't forget, we are a 24/7 hospice. If you need anything, call this number. I'll see you on Thursday." After leaving the room, she filled out a note in the facility binder and then proceeded to encourage the staff. "The love and attention you show Hank really shows. You guys are the real heroes. You have everything you need. Is there anything I can help with? I have time." Joy thanked her for all of her care. On her way out, Sherry was keen to keep an eye out for other residents who might need hospice care. She signed out of the facility book and left the group home. Sherry's exit from the facility was not just a physical departure, but a mental transition as well. In her car, she gave herself space to acknowledge her own feelings, to breathe, and allow herself to feel the weight and the significance of her role. It was a sacred vocation. While her mind always drifts back to how each of her patients are doing, she makes a conscious effort to trust in God and the hospice's system of care.